Welcome back to USCFootball.com. I am Chris Trevino, and I'm joined by Connor Morrissette, a.k.a. Triple Double, as we knock off our positional previews for USC 2025 Spring Camp. We have moved on to the defensive side of the ball. We knocked out cornerbacks. Connor, let's just stay in the secondary. It's time to talk about USC's safety room. When I say safeties, USC 2025, what are your early impressions of that group?
My first impression is Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald. I think they can be an elite pairing, but after them, not a ton of depth in this group. So it's one where you hope the injuries do not happen this season, because with Kamari, we all know he has NFL potential, but Bishop Fitzgerald, while he might not have that high of a ceiling as Kamari Ramsey, he's a really good college football player, another junior college guy who could potentially have another year of eligibility after this one with the new JUCO ruling. He was brought in for a reason. It was to play, and that could be a really, really good duo.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as you. You have star potential, star quality at the top of your safety room, but behind that you have a ton of question marks, and an injury could ruin this position group. And it's funny because you're going from last year where it was one of the deepest rooms on the team to being one of the thinnest positions for the defense in 2025, going from 2024. You're losing a lot because, as I mentioned, that's why you have so much question marks. You got Akili Arnold, you have Bryson Shaw, and you have Zion Branch, one of your more talented reserves who kind of people were expecting to be kind of a future big name starter. And this was kind of a year where the opportunity could have been there for him, but he is off in the transfer portal with his brother, Zachariah Branch. Both of them are now at Georgia, and you're losing some veterans in Akili Arnold, who was your starter, and then Bryson Shaw, who was one of your key rotational pieces, and a guy who had a lot of starting experience overall, just as a player coming from Ohio State, and then over his last couple seasons here with the Trojans. So, obviously, Connor, we look at this, you knew Akili Arnold was on, his final, same with Bryson Shaw in terms of their eligibility, but losing Zion Branch, that's got to come as a blow.
He's the guy who I have on my list here out of the departures. Like, you're going to miss him. And I look at him similarly to how I look at Deuce Robinson's departure on the offense. Deuce did more than Zion last season, but like guys who maybe weren't stars but had star potential and were just really good depth guys. If you can have Deuce Robinson as a depth receiver, if you can have Zion Branch as a depth safety,
you're doing all right.
You're doing really well. I don't blame those guys for not wanting to be that, for wanting bigger opportunities. They were both very highly ranked recruits. I totally get why they left. Zion, of course, was tied to Zachariah leaving too, so that makes total sense. But it's funny you mentioned him as the guy who USC will probably miss the most. That's what I have on my notes here, because they just desperately need one other guy, I think, who has a lot of experience. Now, Christian Pierce is that third returner, and we'll get to the more returners in a second, but like Zion Branch, if it was him, you'd just feel better about the room.
Yeah, and if you had just added Bishop Fitzgerald in addition to that, you'd feel really, really good about your top four guys and let Zion Branch battle it out for one of those starting positions. But yeah, if it was Kamari Ramsey and Zion Branch, you feel amazed by that. I know Zion Branch had injury concerns. He's battled injuries over his time here, but he's never had the opportunity to play as a full-time starter, and this kind of was setting up to be that year for him to do so. But transfer portal came a-calling, and he is off to Georgia. I'm very interested to see what he looks like at Georgia. I hope he can stay healthy, just from a sake of him being, a really good kid and very talented safety. So I'm excited to see what that kind of turns into for him in the SEC. And I know people are going to be like, oh, if he's amazing, it's going to hurt so much more. But yeah, losing Zion Branch is a big one. So we talked about what they're losing, which is a lot of experience and potential, but let's look at what they're returning, because that's kind of the big meat of this portion. You do have a huge returner in the redshirt junior, Kamari Ramsey, who was potentially going to the NFL draft, and he was projected to be one of the top safeties taken in this draft. Where that was, I'm not really sure. I don't think it was the first round, maybe second round, probably third round, but one of the best players in the conference and one of the best safeties in the country. And he's back pairing up with Danton Lynn for a third season, and that could be a special combination in year 3 for them. You also have redshirt junior Christian Pierce, redshirt freshman Marquise Gallegos, and then redshirt freshman Jarvis Boatwright Jr., who was injured for most of the season, and Marquise Gallegos only played in one game. So between your two redshirt freshmen, only one game appearance between those two. Jarvis was a 3-star prospect, and Gallegos was a local 4-star prospect as well. Christian Pierce is kind of that guy where you need him to step up, and that's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these names. But Kamari Ramsey, obviously one of your star players on this team, regardless of defense or offense.
Him returning says a lot, not only just about next season, but about your NIL. Like, he's not coming back if he's not getting a good payday. You don't leave when you might be a third round, or you don't come back, when you might be a third round pick if you're not getting a good contract. So tip of the cap to USC for taking care of that. That's why we see in the NFL now, like NIL, the end of the draft, it's just totally different, where these guys who are on the fringe, they can stay in college another year, and it's just not as deep because of guys who are in Kamari Ramsey's situation. So I'm very happy he's back. He is an instrumental part of this defense for USC, of course. So getting a returner of his quality with losing so many corners is significant, and losing his running mate last year, Achille Arnold. So the fact that you have someone who's been with D'Anton Lynn the longest out of anyone on this team now is great, and he's a really good player too. So it's not just the familiarity with the defense, it's the star power. Can't say enough good things about Kamari Ramsey. I hope he can stay healthy.
60 total tackles, which was third on the team last year, 5.5 for a loss with 2 sacks, 5 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, a pick, and a QB hurry in 11 starts. Was named all Big Ten honorable mention. And yeah, he is one of your heart and soul players of this defense, and could end up being one of the best, kind of like first team, second team caliber Big Ten conference player. That is kind of like the ceiling for him, and will probably be one of the top NFL picks in terms of safety for the 2026 draft. But behind that, as we mentioned, it's like I don't really know. Redshirt junior Christian Pierce, which is kind of I believe he is just a pure junior, junior Christian Pierce is kind of that name where you're circling, like, you need to get something out of him. He needs to be a guy that you see a lot of development and a lot more reps, and he needs to be doing something with those reps. 23 game appearances, and most of that has been on special teams. And again, a fan favorite among USC, the faithful, one of the hardest hitters on the team. You hear his name come up a lot in practice. Had some injury problems late in his freshman season, but pretty much stayed healthy for most of his sophomore year. So this is the year. Like, you're circling him as a guy who, I know we're kind of set on maybe Bishop Fitzgerald and Kamari Ramsey being those top 2 guys, but Christian Pierce should be factoring in as that third piece, that rotational guy, a guy who can come in for a couple drives here and there and really start to kind of emerge and contribute on defense.
We saw a good amount of Bryson Shaw last season, so there's no reason a third safety isn't going to play at USC under D'Anton Lynn, especially one, no disrespect to Bryson Shaw, who projects to be a better player. So Christian Pierce, just because right now we slot him in as that third guy, doesn't mean he isn't going to play a whole lot, but he needs to prove it. Like you said, Chris, this is a huge offseason for him, and if someone on the depth chart were to jump him, would that be a big surprise to you? It wouldn't necessarily be to me, because he hasn't shown a ton here in his career on defense. On special teams, he hits hard. He's a good player in that regard. But third year now in college, the time for him to show something on defense is now. And unless they add someone from the portal at safety, like, this is a great opportunity for him, where he, with no Zion Branch, with all the departures above him from last season, like, he's slated in as that third safety, and then after him there's a pretty significant drop off because it's younger players who just have no experience. So coming into the spring, he has an opportunity, and if he can seize it, like, if it goes well, the variance with him is crazy. Like, could he push Bishop Fitzgerald? I don't think that's going to happen, but that is possible. I don't rule that out right now.
Yeah, and it just, I don't want to say make or break spring, but it feels like he he needs a big spring. Like, it is set up for him, as you just alluded to. It is his opportunity, because you got 2 redshirt freshmen behind you. Like, you shouldn't be pushed by 2 redshirt freshmen as a third-year junior. And again, you haven't played that much on defense. 23, all of them on special teams. Like, this is your chance. Like, this is what you've been waiting for. I know you got Kamari Ramsey there. You're going to learn from him. You've been learning from him. Bishop Fitzgerald, veteran guy coming in. Yeah, that's fine. But you should still, this is your second year in the defense. You should have a leg up in that regard. And spring should be, a lot of Christian Pierce did this. A lot of Christian Pierce did that. This should be kind of like a offseason breakout for Christian Pierce, where he kind of stamps himself as, hey, it's my time, it's my opportunity. I'm that third safety. I'm that second safety who's going to get some reps, some key reps as well for this defense. That's what's up for grabs for CP in 2025 and starting in spring.
Yeah, he has a huge opportunity, and we'll get to the depth chart later. I keep saying how he's number 3. This position, it's tough because you have 2 guys, and Danton Lynn likes to rotate, but like it could use a shot in the arm of depth from the transfer portal. But it doesn't make sense, I don't think, to bring anyone in, because like you would have to bring in unless you're getting a surefire NFL guy, but like Bishop Fitzgerald would be like, why the heck did I come here if you're going to get someone to play over me? Like you would want to get someone to compete with Christian Pierce. But at this point in year 4 of the Lincoln Riley era, of year 2 of Danton Lynn, like I sort of feel like they just got to go with what they have, and that's why it's so big for Christian Pierce. They don't have another guy who could play safety really, because everyone else just doesn't have the experience. So I'm with you. Huge year for him, and he will have an opportunity to play because we know Danton Lynn likes to play a lot of guys.
Yeah, I think they have to bring in somebody. Like, I'm not saying it has to be like a starter guy, but like an Achille Arnold, but they need somebody. Like,
the room is light on numbers.
It is super light. I mean, we're counting right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys. Yeah, I mean, you could move one of the cornerbacks we talked about, like an Alex Graham or James Johnson. One of those guys can move over from our cornerback preview.
And they will have another freshman, like other guys join the team after. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you got D. Reddick coming in the summer, but we're not talking about him because he doesn't count right now. But yeah, you got some guys, but again, true freshmen. Like that's not really like what you want to be depending on unless they just play out of their mind. But I think you need somebody. Again, doesn't have to be like a surefire NFL guy, the best safety that enters in the spring portal, but I think you need at least one more body, just an older guy where you can kind of feel a little bit more confident in your depth moving forward, because it is really shaky right now outside of those 3.
One injury, you're in trouble. Yeah, so I hear you on that. I just go back to what I said in our last video, where it's challenging because you got Bishop Fitzgerald from NC State to come in and play this huge role. If you're a one-and-done guy who isn't like a Caleb, not that Caleb Downs was a one-and-done guy, but if you're like a Caleb Downs level guy, you can go anywhere and play anywhere. But if you're a guy who wants to try to make that jump to the NFL, you have something to prove, you have one more year of eligibility left, it's now or never, and you're not at that level, not a surefire NFL prospect yet. Is USC appealing when Kamari Ramsey isn't coming off the field very much? Bishop Fitzgerald isn't coming off the field very much. You'd have to beat him out. And it seems like they already got that impact transfer. So I agree with you, and it's college football. USC has a good NIL setup. Like, they'll pay someone if they feel like they need to get that done. It probably will work. I just don't know what kind of an impact guy you can bring in when they have 2 impact guys who don't project to come off the field very much right now.
We mentioned, about the spring for Christian Pierce, but it's also a big spring for the redshirt freshmen, Marquise Gallegos and Jarvis Boatwright, because in the same vein as Christian Pierce, like, they don't have competition a lot. There's not a lot of older guys that'll be gobbling up, majority of those reps on the 2 deep. Marquise Gallegos, Jarvis Boatwright, they can push for a second team spot. They can push for being in the rotation. So we haven't seen much of them. Obviously, as I mentioned, just 1 game between them, and Jarvis was hurt for the second half of the 2024 season. So don't be surprised if one of those guys emerges. And frankly, they need one of them to emerge to kind of make you feel a little bit better about the depth moving forward. Someone who can play alongside Christian Pierce as that number 2 on the back end for the depth chart. So yeah, one of those guys has to show something, and there'll be reps available for them to show something.
Is there any chance Steve Miller, being a Doug Belk guy through and through, is enough for him to, if he has a good couple weeks to start the spring, go up in front of Gallegos and Boatwright just because they weren't really Doug Belk guys out of high school?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility, and I think that can kind of loop us into new faces because we've kind of been throwing all these names around because there's not that many names. It's all blending together.
I keep jumping the gun.
No, it's fine. You keep us moving. So you have with the new faces 6-year senior Bishop Fitzgerald, who we've already mentioned a lot in this show, coming from NC State. Kind of, I believe he was a all ACC honorable mention
Yep.
out of there. And then you have the true freshman Steve Miller, a 3-star who was the number 44 safety. Obviously doesn't scream like instant impact guy, but you're right. This is a guy that Doug Belk went out to Georgia to recruit and signed. And yeah, that says something for being like, these are my guys. I want these guys in here. And yeah, we'll see what Steve Miller could do. He is a welcome fresh face because they don't have a lot of depth here. So Steve Miller is going to have an opportunity, as Bishop Fitzgerald is going to be a plug and play guy for this defense as we see fit.
Yeah, with the new faces, you have to start with Fitzgerald. I was watching some of his highlight tapes before we started the show. It would be great to watch like a full NC State game and be able to follow him, but the best you can do on YouTube is just his highlight plays, and the physicality with him really stood out to me. His interceptions were kind of right place at the right time, so I'm not holding that against him. To me, he stood out more as a run defender, as a guy who's a very hard hitter, who's solid in coverage too. Don't get me wrong, but
but being in the right place at the right time counts for something.
Exactly, absolutely. So again, don't take that away from him. But there, in these short highlight clips, again, you can't take too much away from him. I didn't see a ton of him as a cover guy. It was just more of the coming up to the line of scrimmage, and he did a lot of damage against Stanford. I'll tell you that. Stanford would try to run side to side, and Bishop Fitzgerald would say no. So
solid tackler.
Yeah, I like what I saw from him, and I think he's a really good partner for Ramsey. Last year we ranked the transfers, and I think higher on Kamari Ramsey than most people, and most people were high on him, but I had him as the number one impact transfer, and you could make an argument that it was him or Woody Marks. Maybe Woody would have edged him out for that number one overall spot. But when we're drafting transfers, I'm very high on Bishop Fitzgerald this offseason.
I don't know if you have his tackling grade in front of you, but we know Kamari Ramsey was a really solid tackler for this defense, one of their best. I know people are going to be like, but what about the Michigan game? Okay, you get a couple misses here and there, but Kamari Ramsey, and we know USC's tackling was so much better in 2024 compared to 2023, took a lot of leaps and bounds there in that regard. So getting another really good tackler, and not saying Akili
77.6. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
really good.
Really good.
And he got better as the season went on, and Penn State wanted him, and they have a good defense. I'm buying all the Bishop Fitzgerald stock.
He just saw the 77. He's like, I got to buy more stock.
That's good.
He's going to go to his college football stock bookie and be like, I need more Bishop Fitzgerald.
Yep.
Put me down for more Bishop Fitzgerald. Nearly 800 snaps last season. So again, a veteran guy, really good tackle, physical in the box. Not a high-end coverage guy, but has made plays in that department. So, yeah, I think this is a really good pickup for USC, and just pairing him with Kamari Ramsey could be one of the best pairings in the Big Ten overall, just as a duo in terms of your safeties.
I don't think that's crazy to say. I know Ohio State has great safeties, and when we talked about Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, the one duo that on paper was better than that duo was the Ohio State duo. So it's no shame to be number two to the reigning national champs. I did a lot more research about the wide receiver duos than the safety duos, so off the top of my head, I can't say for sure that USC's number two. But Kamari Ramsey, we know, is elite. Bishop Fitzgerald, to me, is going to become elite if he isn't already elite. I really like him, and I just want this group to stay healthy because I want to see what it looks like, because I think these two guys, like, their partnership could be really, really good.
Absolutely. But, again, those depth questions loom
big
large
time.
over this group. Kind of takes the shine out of the potential star power here. But again, this is something that we'll see what happens in the spring. Maybe Christian Pierce lights the spring on fire. Maybe Marquise Gallegos does it. Maybe Jarvis Boatwright does it. Maybe Steve Miller does it. But you need someone to step up in this room. And if not, they're going to have to get multiple guys out of the portal to offset, the lack of experience and playmaking that showed in the spring. So this is a big room. This will be a big spring for a lot of guys here, obviously outside of Kamari and Bishop Fitzgerald, because we know those are our cemented starters. Just kind of jumping into the final thoughts. As we look at it, what are the strengths and weaknesses? I feel like these are two very clear ones, at least for me.
Yeah, I think we're going to have the same ones. So the strength for me, very good at the top with Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald. So I start there. That was sort of my first impression. We've talked about it a lot. I'm repeating myself, but they have to be the strength.
Yeah, again, probably, I'll make Connor do more research on duos and the safeties in the Big Ten. But, in terms of they're up there. They have to be, like, top 5 in this conference, and we'll see where it ends up. But, assuming everyone's healthy, they should be among the best and maybe the nation's best moving forward, because this is Danton Lynn's bread and butter. He is a safety coach by trade. And year 3, Kamari Ramsey, Danton Lynn, that could be really special, as I mentioned earlier. So that is a clear strength for me. And then the weakness, we've been hitting it all preview long here. No experience behind these two guys. No real true depth behind these guys. You need someone to emerge, or you're going to have to go shopping in the spring window. So that is a true weakness there, and one of the most glaring ones among the defense.
Coy Parrish is another good safety at Minnesota. He had that pick last year against USC. Yeah, same with me, though, on the weakness. The depth, not a whole lot of it, and this is a position group where one injury could be a killer, where you just don't have like Kamari Ramsey is Kamari Ramsey, and if he goes down, like, you're going to have a really hard time replacing him, but you would hope to have a young player waiting in the wings, like a highly ranked kid who it's like, okay, hey, we don't want to be playing you, but at least you have a really high ceiling. Let's see what you have. Worst case scenario, they don't really have any of that behind them. So I just worry if their recruiting mistakes will catch up to them if there is an injury.
Super early, but where would you have Kamari and Bishop on the most important?
For the whole roster?
Yeah.
Well, I am the quarterback is always going to be number one for me because that's just how I think football is. So not one, but oh man, that's hard, Chris. Now I'm going through the whole roster, but we did all these previews.
I feel like Kamari has to be top 5.
Oh, definitely top 5. And I think both, in my opinion, are top 10.
Okay.
I would put Bishop Fitzgerald there too, in large part because there just isn't a lot behind him. Yeah, I mean, you talk about MVPs of the defense. We were having this discussion on the Peristyle. Eric Gentry's in the mix. Kamari Ramsey's in the mix. And then it's a 2-horse race, I think. So I look at those guys. Yeah, I mean, maybe 3. Maybe as high as 3.
I was going to say 3.
Yeah, Mekhi Lemon maybe 2, or maybe Elijah Page. Definitely top 5. You're putting a lot of pressure on me, man.
I'm sorry, man. I just want to see if you crack. I just want to see if you crack. You were cracking a little bit, but you held strong.
If Mekhi Lemon isn't available, you have other good receiver. Yeah, I mean, maybe is it Mayava 1, and then Elijah Page 2, and then Kamari Ramsey 3? How does that sound?
Someone clip this, and when he does his list in a couple months, we'll see what he ends up doing for the thing. So yeah. Kamari Ramsey has to be in the top 5, and that just shows how important and talented they are for the safety room with that lack of depth moving forward, and we'll see what USC does to address that throughout the rest of this offseason and in spring. We have our one question segment, which means we're kind of wrapping up in this group, but we have a question from Reggie. Not sure if this was on Twitter or the Peristyle, but which safety do you feel has the most positional versatility and could end up playing some nickel or corner a la Jalen Smith?
I think the corners are more versatile than the safeties, but if I had to pick a safety who was versatile, I think it would be Jarvis Boatwright.
Yeah.
But Kamari Ramsey is a safety through and through. Bishop Fitzgerald is a safety through and through. Christian Pierce is a safety through and through. We don't really know much about the other guys because they're so young. Jarvis Boatwright at one point was maybe a nickel, so I would lean towards him, but it's not exactly the most versatile group like that cornerback group is.
Yeah, I would say, there's not like a clear Jalen in this group, but I was looking at Jarvis Boatwright as well, 6'1", 190 pounds. That lines up as a potential cornerback, and Steve Miller possibly. You know, he's a young guy, he's still super young in the terms of you can make him flip out to a nickel or a cornerback if you wanted to. They need the depth, so he's not really going to move, but Jarvis Boatwright played offense in high school as well, so he has that athleticism, that potential to kind of move around. So Steve Miller or Jarvis Boatwright would be my 2 answers for this question.
I'm with you.
Connor, that is going to wrap up the safety position. Wasn't our longest one of this positional preview, but that speaks to how kind of limited they are with their bodies in that room. But again, super star potential and star quality as well with that room between Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald. But this is a position group we're going to have to watch in the spring and see what happens, what emerges, and what additions they might have to make moving forward.
I'll put you on the spot here to wrap up.
Sure.
Out of Marquise Gallegos, Jarvis Boatwright, Steve Miller, and I know he's not here yet, but D. Reddick, just going to throw him into which out of that group of 4 will have the most defensive snaps this season?
I'm going to say Reddick.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, too.
Gerard loves D. Reddick.
So does Lincoln.
Which is maybe poisoning the well in my mind a little bit.
So does Lincoln.
So that is going to be a big addition in the summer. Just as Gerard says, just a football player, does everything. So seeing how scarce the room is, like on paper, there's going to be an opportunity for that guy to kind of come in. But we're kind of cheating here because he's not part of this thing.
I know you really.
I'm fired up right now.
You really don't want to talk about him. Sorry.
No, but it's fine because this is an important position for USC and Danson Lynn, and there's going to be a chance for someone to break through and maybe force them not have to rely heavy on the portal in the spring window for the safety room. So big position, big names at the top. We'll see who emerges in the spring. That is going to wrap us up for the safety position as we move through the defense. Check me and Connor out on our next one coming up soon.